Welcome to the Grateful Entrepreneur, an online summit all about growing your business with gratitude. During the summit, I'm going to be interviewing entrepreneurs and leaders about the power of gratitude, appreciation, giving, and customer experience to help grow your business. Today, I'm interviewing Stephanie L. Jones. Now, Stephanie is the author of the best-selling book, The Giving Challenge. Wait, I got a copy right here. Woo! She's an inspirational speaker and life success coach. Since graduating from Taylor University, Stephanie has lived a crazy life, from a private investigator to police officer to senior manager in the Fortune 100 company Cisco Systems. She's a recipient of the Cisco Humanitarian Award and serves on the board of directors for the Porter County Community Foundation. Passions are giving, reading, travel, friends, and family. She lives in Northwest Indiana with her husband, Mike, but you'll find them on weekends in Michigan, kayaking, and fishing. That sounds really good to me. For more information, you can visit givinggal.com. Stephanie, how are you today?
I'm doing so well. How are you today, Scott?
I'm good. I didn't tell you before, Cisco Systems was the first ever stock that I bought.
Oh,
little
very
trivia.
good.
I don't have it anymore. It was years ago, and then I needed the money. So, but yeah, I'm sure that's a good company. So thank you so much for being here. I'm excited because I've read your book, and I found some stamps that I had put in there as a bookmark. I was wondering where these stamps have been. They're holiday stamps. But yeah, I love your book, and let's touch on your book first, because I think it fits in with the topic that we're going to discuss today. How'd you come up with the concept of writing a book about giving?
Yeah, so it started, 2011. I went on a giving journey, which I now call my giving journey. I gave a gift every day for over 500 days, and that journey changed my life. I blogged a little bit in the beginning, just kind of sharing what I was doing each day, sharing on social media. And after a while, people started saying, man, you should write a book. And I knew nothing about writing. I wasn't a writer. I never set out to be a writer, but it's like, the more and more people tell you stuff and give you a little confidence and courage. It, took me about 4 years, but I came out with the little book, The Giving Challenge, and it's changed my life. Giving has literally changed my life. And, I started a company through it and everything. So.
That's awesome. I encourage everybody to go read it. It'll make you a better person. It'll change your life. I know you're working on some other books. We'll touch on those at the end before we sign off. A lot of people may not realize, hey, giving can actually help grow your business. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and the different ways giving can do that. I know there's a couple stories in your book that are kind of more business related that you experienced during your 40-day giving challenge. Can you touch on a couple of those stories?
Sure. One of them was, I think, day 3 in the book with Don, who was my driver. I was on a business trip, and we just got to talking. I'm big on building connections, talking with people who are around you, especially when you're traveling. And we got to talking, and it was funny because he had even mentioned, like, hey, you should write a book. And I was like, oh, I actually am. It's on giving. And he did not know. Through our conversation, I found out he only took cash. I had no cash on me, which is like rule number 1 when you travel, you should always have cash. I did not. And so I was kind of panicking internally, like I said a little prayer of what am I going to do? And we arrived at the airport, and he was like, you know what? I'm just going to give you your ride for free today. And, a gift from me. And I was so taken back by that because he didn't have to do it. When you're a chauffeur, when you're, toting around one person, you're losing out on other business. And so that just really touched my heart. And I felt like I needed to write about it. And I think that's a great example of a gift that you can give in your business. And I often laugh about it because I said, he gave it to me expecting nothing. That was my definition of a gift on the journey, is give something and expect nothing in return. And here I've put him in my book. Whenever friends travel to DC, I talk about, calling him, and we're talking about him here today.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I love that one. It's funny because I reviewed that tip before we started to record the video here. But this morning, I was writing the kind of the next section of the book that I'm writing, and it was give away something for free, and it just totally matched what we're doing here. You know, I come from the fitness background, and I still work with fitness clients, and I've got two people, and I wrote about this in kind of the first draft of my book this morning. One of them is a past client. She is struggling with Lyme disease, and
Oh, wow.
it's really kind of like put her life in a downward spiral over this last year. And she really thinks a autoimmune paleo meal plan could help her. Well, I just so happen to be kind of marketing my new nutrition and fitness plans, and I have access to a paleo autoimmune plan. So I said, Carrie, you know, just take this with my compliments. I want to help you in any way that I can. I don't want to charge you for this. You're struggling. Let me help you get better, hopefully, with a different style of eating. And
Right.
another woman's actually a current client of mine. We're about to wrap up a program. She's going through some personal struggles, and finances are going to be tough for her in the next few months. She wants to continue on her fitness journey. And I knew that, all right, signing up for one of my new exercise programs, even though it's not that expensive, it just every dollar counts for her right now. So she's been a long-term
Right.
friend of mine. She's very supportive of our other members. I'm just going to gift that to her because I want to see her life get better. And I know we're running businesses here. We're not running charities, but it's important when you can
Right.
to gift those things to certain clients every now and again.
I think there's a balance. You bring up a good point. You know, I gave a keynote on this topic, and afterwards, people are coming up to me and going, you know, well, how much do you give away, and how, you know, like we started having this conversation, and a couple of answers that I have is, number one, you have to know what's best for your business. You know, what can you give away? What I love to do and recommend is set what your goals are up front of what you are going to give. So for me, I do coaching also, and I will say each month I have one client that I'm going to give a month of coaching to for free. So, you know, it's like setting a minimum. If I want to do more, I can, if I have time or if I'm hitting my goals or anything, but at least, you know, that's built into your business plan of what are you going to give away? What can you afford? And then reevaluating that, you know, over time. How can you grow that and be consistent in your giving? Because I think when we're consistent, that's when we'll see, you know, what I love to call the ROI of giving. And not that you're giving to get something in return. It's just going to happen if you have no expectations.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, the interview I just did right before you with Doug, we talked about consistency of sending thank you notes at regular intervals, and we talked a lot about gifting as well. What are some ways we can build our business by giving?
Sure. I think there are a lot of ways, and it depends what industry you're in. For example, one thing, I had a magazine. I'm a former law enforcement. My husband's in law enforcement. And so I offered to write for them for free, you know, just, hey, give them my time. And it was interesting because I did that. I expected nothing in return, just an opportunity to write for them and put from a police wife's perspective. They didn't have anything like that in there. Well, I ended up getting paid out of the opportunity. I ended up making a couple of new connections and got a speaking gig out of it. So I think whenever you look at what your passions and your skills are, for me, one of the things I love to write, I offered it and I got opportunities out of it. We kind of talked about the coaching aspect of it. So if you do have that service that really it's your time, which our time is the most important thing that we have. For me, I love to give away that service. You know, like I said, minimum to one client a month. If you have a product, so, you know, for me, I have my book that I have. I also have t-shirts. And so for my books, for every book that I sell, I give away a meal to a child in need. I partner with an organization called Rice Bowls, and they provide meals to children in orphanages. The cool thing is Cisco matches my donation. So it's almost like every book I sell, then two meals are provided to a child in need.
Nice.
One thing I'm big on is really like I had a client once who he talked about his favorite restaurant. He was in North Carolina, so he's not in the state that I am. I'm in Indiana. And he talked about this restaurant. And so I just went online, got him a gift card, and sent it to he and his wife, like, hey, go have a dinner on me. I had another client who talked about taking his kids tobogganing over the winter time. And so I got him a gift certificate to this place that he wanted to go tobogganing. So I think not just sending stuff out, but being very personal. It's very specific to something that you've heard your client say that they enjoy, or, to even get their family involved. So it's not just, if you and I are working together, it's not just building the relationship between me and you, but with the family. You know me, I'm big on thank you notes, but I think beyond the thank you notes is notes of encouragement. Our customers and our clients go through all sorts of things. And again, if we're listening to them and they're not just a transaction for us and we're building a relationship, those notes of encouragement when they're going through times of struggle can be very uplifting. I mean, I can just think of some of the most heartfelt texts and emails I've gotten after I send those notes of encouragement to clients. I think a fun one, and kind of the last one that I'll touch on, is if you are shipping a product. So for me, I ship my books out to clients. The packaging that I put in is bright and colorful, pink packages. I have ones that have hearts on them. Instead of just writing their name on the front, I put, the amazing or the fabulous and their name. I sign every book. I include a bookmark, and then I include a personal note. And I never realized the gift that was. I was just trying to do something special. And one day I had a customer who had ordered my book, and she took a screenshot of all those different things that I did, put them on social media, and then wrote how each of those, pieces made her feel. And really none of it cost me, my bookmarks are pennies on the dollar. The packaging is the same as what I would pay for boring packaging, so it's all these little things that make your customer feel special, feel like they're just not a number. I'm not just shipping books out of my home, but I really care about that individual, and I want to take time to let them know that I care about them.
All great stuff, Stephanie. And I want to kind of touch on a couple of your points, just to write that maybe note of encouragement. I actually just got a message from a former fitness client of mine who I had sent a gratitude card a few months ago, and she's got some health challenges now. But on the card, I wrote my, a gratitude message. But on the other side of the card, which, oftentimes is left blank, I just said, never give up. And she mentioned that when she messaged me today through Facebook. She mentioned when I received your note that said, never give up, it came at that perfect time. And you never know when you're going to touch somebody or really motivate somebody to improve their lives just by 3 simple words, really, we're in that case. And I love the personalization of the gifts. It's so important. One of our previous guests on this summit here that I'm doing, he's also one of my business coaches. He loves Disney. He takes his family to Disney literally 4 or 5 times a year. I think he has stock in the company, and they're gonna move to Orlando soon. But when they went the day after Christmas, and I had basically like a tote bag with a bunch of Disney things and food waiting for them when they checked in, just as a token of my appreciation for all the coaching he's provided for me over the last decade, really. And so personalization of the gifts that you give. And then, of course, when you mentioned the charity, the one to, every book sold, you get a meal for a child in need. It's so awesome what you're doing there. I'm a big believer in giving back to charities. One of our other guests for the summit, who I'll be interviewing, works for B1G1, buy one, give one. And if you're looking for an easy way to set that up, audience listeners here, to set up a giving and attaching it to your business, you'll find out more how you can do that through B1G1. And they work with over 500 different charities of all different types of populations. Really cool. So keeping on the theme of nonprofits, what are some ways nonprofits can give to donors to say thank you?
Yeah, I think there's always a ton of ways, no matter if you're a really small nonprofit or if you're a large nonprofit, and being creative. I actually just got in the mail this week from the Porter County Community Foundation. I sit on their board, but I'm also a donor. And it was just a packet of seeds, and it was a sweet little note, and it just talked about like how generosity grows. And it just brightened my name. It was on a bright card. It had all the staff signatures on it, and a little, here we are in spring, go out and plant some flowers. So I love that idea, something different I hadn't seen other nonprofits do. If you're a smaller nonprofit, taking that time, so I know you're big on thank you notes, is writing those personalized notes. I give a lot to nonprofits, and I would say probably under 50% that I receive, a personalized thank you note. You usually get a form letter for your taxes, here's your write-off basically for the year.
And then I had one. Then they're like, can you make another donation?
Yeah, exactly. I was speaking at an event, and a lady had come up to me afterwards. She was president of a nonprofit, a smaller nonprofit, and she was talking about how they had this client that year after year they gave like $50, and she was like, we were appreciative of that. We wrote a letter. Well, one year they ended up getting like $10,000 from this donor, and they were shocked because they knew this was, way different than what they had received before. And so they called to thank that donor, made that personal phone call, made that connection. And the donor explained, I think they'd, got an inheritance or something like that, and they'd given to multiple nonprofits. Well, a year later, they ended up getting another check for around $10,000 from this same person. And they said that out of the gifts that they'd given prior, this was the only organization that had called them to personally thank them. And so when they had additional dollars, so talk about ROI, they made a 5-minute phone call. And the next year, that donor, that phone call was so important that they wrote another $10,000 check to that nonprofit. And I think that's powerful. So I think those are some small things. I know personally, just to, give a plug, I've had nonprofits using my book as a thank you to their, because books are very inexpensive for nonprofits to purchase. And so thinking about something that aligns to, that organization and sending in the mail. And so that's been pretty cool for me to see organizations using the Giving Challenge as a way to say thank you to their donors.
That's got to make you feel great. And one kind of follow-up to that, so when I was doing my research with nonprofits, there's a nonprofit, it's called Donors Choose, and they kind of did a little study, and they sent handwritten thank you notes to half of recent first-time donors, and they found that 38% of people who received a thank you note were more likely to give again than those that didn't receive one, and the thank you note recipients donated an additional $41 per year on average, which translated to more than $3 million in additional donations per year.
Wow.
The power of a thank you note.
Incredible. The power of a thank you note, exactly.
Stephanie, we're talking a lot about donors and clients and customers. We don't want to leave out the employees of a business. So how can you use giving to your employees to really have a better business?
Sure. I think, we're coming off of the thank you note. And, I would challenge managers out there who are listening and leaders and company owners to say, when was the last time you wrote a thank you note to someone in your company? And it can be something very small that they did, but you noticed maybe it made a difference in your day. It impacted your day or the business. It doesn't even have to be business related. I think people in our companies all the time are doing things that we notice, and sending them a note to say thank you, for your service and for what you do for the company. If you can attach a little gift to that, fabulous. I love, sending those little gifts. And I'm big on sending gifts of not just around the holidays. We've become a culture where it's like, oh, well, if it's a holiday, we send a gift. I'm big on sending gifts randomly, just to kind of acknowledge and say thank you. I also think another way to give to our employees is to recognize them publicly, however you can do that. If it's through an email and you copy a bunch of people for something, again, being specific, not making things generic or blasting it to a bunch of people, but being very specific. Or if your company holds meeting-wide calls, calling out a couple of people who have shined, and maybe calling out the people who don't typically get the recognition. So if you think in a sales organization, it's typically the salespeople that get the recognition for hitting their goals. But what about the people who are behind the scenes, those people in finance and HR, the administrative assistants, those types of people? I think the other thing, one thing you mentioned, I work at Cisco Systems by day, and I have my Giving Gal business on the side, is, we get our birthdays off, which is so fun to have your birthday off and not have to worry about, or taking like a personal day off. They give us 40 hours paid to volunteer, which I love, because I think a lot of people love to give and get out in their community, but they're like, oh, I've got to use my personal time and I need that for my family, or for when my kids get sick. And then we also have the matching program. Like I said, it's helped me with rice bowls to give. I think they will match up to $10,000. So I think there's all different ways that you can give to your employees, big or small, no matter what size your business is. Again, going back to what I said in the beginning of incorporating giving in your plan for your customers, how do you incorporate giving in your plan for your employees?
I love that. That's so cool that Cisco does that. Not many companies do that. And it's funny, as you were given examples of, basically appreciating your employees on one of my other interviews, as he's kind of summarized the message he was talking about, which was creating relationships, it essentially came to being nice to people. And it's as simple as that, but it's crazy how we try to either make it complicated or we're not nice to people. And if we can bring the kindness back to the business world, I think we're going to reap the benefits. And as we've talked about, the ROI of giving, the return on investment. Okay, as we wrap up, Stephanie, this has been great. So I want to touch on a couple of your projects that you're currently working on. Before I do that, I don't want to miss anything. Are there any other examples that we left out? Because you've been chock full of case studies, and I love these.
I think the only thing too that I really see as a gift, and that, the only reason I mention this is because I feel like it's happened multiple times over the past week, is just your customer service. Really businesses looking at your front line of the people that are touching your customers. You are either giving them a gift when they walk through the door and interact with you, or you're giving them a bad experience. And so I think if you think in the small terms of that smile that you're giving to that customer, even if they're grumpy or in a bad mood, that, hello, how's your day going? And not complaining about your day. I don't know about you, but if I go into somewhere, like a restaurant or to go to get coffee, and I usually ask, like, how's your day going? Which I guess I want that. But when they start, kind of going on and on and on, and then it's 5 minutes later, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, my day just got worse. So, really thinking about that as employees, you're there to serve your clients, to have that servant's heart. And so what are the simple ways that you can give each and every day through the customer service that you're providing?
Love that. So important. And use their first name. We like to hear our name, right? To use
Yes.
their name when you're addressing them. Cool. Stephanie, this has been great. Before we sign off, what are you working on? I know you've got some books and projects coming out this year. Give us a scoop.
Yes, so the scoop is I am working on the second edition of the Giving Challenge. So after I released the first edition, Dave Ramsey, so most people are probably familiar, New York Times bestselling author, syndicated talk show host, he endorsed my book after it came out. So I'm trying to wrap up a second edition so I can get his endorsement on the back and on the inside. And I've added a couple other things. I think one of the things is we listen to our customers. And, I've added some bonuses in the back that people said, hey, this would be nice to have in the book. And I'm like, okay, if I'm redoing it, let's do that. So I'm wrapping that up. I am working on the Gratitude Challenge, which will be my next book to come out. And we're doing some work together on that, which I'm so excited. So started writing, and I've got some pretty big speaking gigs that I have coming up over the next month. One for the largest community bank in Indiana. So they're kicking off a volunteer portal, and really just how do they get their employees active in giving and volunteering. So I'm doing that and doing some Mother's Day talks, and then got a couple other books that I would like to start off on the year. But that's what I have going on in the next quarter.
Not that much, huh?
No, just little things.
Awesome. Stephanie, before we sign off, give your website again, and then where can we connect with you on social media?
Sure. So my website is givinggal.com. Social media, Facebook is /givinggal, one word. And then Twitter and Instagram is giving_gal.
Awesome. Stephanie, this was a pleasure to interview you. I'm so excited to have you as part of this summit. Again, like I mentioned, you were chock full of examples and case studies and your own personal stories. Thank you so much. This is going to help a lot of businesses, I'm confident. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott, for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Everybody watching, thank you for watching my interview with Stephanie as part of the Grateful Entrepreneur Summit. Stay tuned and come back for the next one. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.